Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Project Fairlady. So what I'm currently up to, folks, I'm trying to knock over heaps of the little jobs left from doing all this sort of front duct work. There's lots of little block-off plates and stuff that I need to do in front of the radiator area there. And I've just done a bit of work on these intercoolers. If you remember, I cut the lower corner off the intercoolers and I had to build a hood for the back of them. I've already done the one on this side, and I happen to have the other one on the bench. So let's take a look at it. So this is our passenger side intercooler here, folks. You can see the hood that I've made for the back of it there, and that's obviously so that you know, when all that air comes through the front, through the top section, we weren't losing all that air up into the engine bay. We're now directing it down and out under the car. You know, nothing fancy about that. It's just a simple sort of welded up hood thing. I have actually welded it onto the intercooler instead of putting tabs and then riv nuts. I just don't think there's any real need to have this be removable, you know, like it's not something that's going to kind of be in the way or ever really need to be removed. Obviously there's been a lot of modifications now to these side mount intercoolers. They're far from what they were when I got the vehicle and they were on there. We've changed all the inlets and outlets from 2" to 2.5". Quite a bit involved in doing that, and you can see there, that's where I've just been working. I've just you know, welded that plate on there after cutting the corners off to get better clearance, and this will give you a chance to have a bit better close-up look at what I've done here with these brackets, which are part of the sort of front ductwork. So you can see they're just a little bit of aluminium that I've bent up and then riveted onto the back of our main intercooler support bracket, with a riv nut in each of them to receive the bolts that holds this panel across the front. So yeah, a bit of work has gone into these intercoolers now, but well worth it, folks. At least now they work completely with everything that I've got going on. So yeah, I'm just about to put this guy back in the car and move on to some other things. So I'm sure you'll be hearing from me pretty damn soon. Okay, I'm back, folks. Doing a bit of work on the front under tray here as part of all these bits and pieces in the front there. Since I've been mucking around with the side mount intercoolers, I thought I'd sort out some venting in the front, in this front under tray. So you can see there, folks, this is the vent that sits behind the side mount intercooler on the passenger side. It's just an aluminium vent that I have purchased, because it's, in my opinion, quite a nice little unit. About the same gauge as what the under tray is made out of. And it's pretty easy to fit up, folks. Pretty easy to fit up. So you can see how I've done this here. Obviously there's a hole cut out on the other side, and then this guy's just riveted on over the top. Very simple. Works with what I need. As I say, these vents are just something that I bought. This is actually the original size of the vent here, and I've cut this piece on the end off. I could actually buy a vent that was around about the right size here, but it had a wider section in the middle, and which made it sort of take up more area, and this really only just fits. It's as big as I could fit in that area, you know, without impeding on anything else. So that's why I chose this particular vent. Yeah, like I say, it's just a hardware store thing. Very good quality in my opinion, stamped really nice. Perfect for this, guys, perfect for this. And that's what I've done with it there, folks. That's another one that I've got that I've cut down. You can see I've just cut a bit off the end, cut it down through there. That's really just to make it even on both sides once I sort of cut it off. And yeah, you can see that's now the right thing for one of them. You can see on this end over here, folks, I'll just bring this back in. This one's marked out for the cutout, so I'll cut that out there. I've been using a little grinder, it's pretty easy. I find the grinder a bit easier than using the jigsaw, just because you don't have to frig around and drill holes to be able to sort of plunge set up the plunge cut for the jigsaw, you know. So I'll get this one cut out and I'll get the other one riveted on, and we'll have another look at it, eh? Alrighty. Alright, let's fit it back up and see what we think of it. And there it is, folks. That's what we've ended up with from this view. Two guys there, sitting right behind the intercoolers. Yes. Alright, let's go and have a look from the other side. Yeah, that looks alright. Pretty happy with that. It seems to work pretty good. That takes up the full space behind the intercooler there. As you can see, we're right on that corner there. That was my close spot that I've been working to, getting as close to that as I could. And we've just ended up with, what have we got through there? I think there's maybe half of one fin that goes underneath the intercooler just to get us back an amount here, because we have to join this on and then step it up for our side covers here, which are also going to have vents in them. So I'm assuming there's going to be probably another vent maybe there, or of some sort, whether it's the full 3 stamp sections or maybe just 2 again. I don't know. I haven't really put any thought into that piece there yet. I do have some of the original plastic inner guards there, not the original for this vehicle, but a set that I bought that are in, you know, pretty average condition. But which, honestly, the main reason for purchasing them was so that I had something to go off with all my sizing. If they were in better condition, I possibly would have used them, but I think I may just end up fabricating these as well out of aluminium sheet and putting some more vents in them. Anyway, that's where I am so far. Pretty happy with those guys. I think they turned out not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Alright guys, as I often say, I'll be back. So as usual, folks, I've wandered off onto a bit of a tangent. I've ended up fitting this front chassis brace here. This braces the front tension rod pickup points back against the lower control arm mounting points here, and then braces the two together, so it just really stiffens up these tension rod pickup points. Really good thing in my opinion. And the reason I fitted it up was I was looking at it the other day and I thought, oh, this section here is probably going to interfere with the under tray that I have under here, because I haven't got a cutout for that, and it sticks out a little bit further than the under tray does. So I've been working on the under tray down here and cutting a piece out after fitting this. Plus this needs a little bit of fettling, guys. This has obviously been made off a jig, and initially it appeared that it wouldn't fit, so I ended up having to completely unbolt the tension rod brackets and kind of wrestle it into position. And basically I found once I fitted it up and then started doing up all the bolts, it kind of pulled itself around and it actually fits up pretty good. I had to make a couple of minor modifications. I just had to slightly, ever so slightly, enlarge a couple of bolt holes in one or two of these brackets, but only very minor, which I think possibly could have been alleviated by maybe moving this engine cross member slightly, because I think there is a bit of play on these studs that hold it in position. I possibly could have loosened this off and knocked it back a bit, and maybe wrangled that into position without having to do anything. But yeah, initially I thought, bloody shit, aftermarket part, it doesn't fit. But made a liar out of me. It actually fits up really well. So all that's left to do with this now is just bolt the under tray back up, and I'll be back to where I left off. And that's what it looks like all back together, folks. You can see I just had to cut out that piece just there. There was a little sort of a tab that went up into this area here. Obviously that's gone now, and I've just had to cut out for that guy there, which you know, you can't even really tell it's in there now. It's always a bit of a task just making sure that you've got everything in that you need to get in, that you've allowed for everything, and you don't bloody build something that you find out later on you can't do because it's in the way of something. Anyway, let's get on to something else. So I've made a bit of a start on these splash guards on the back of the intercoolers here, folks, inside the front of the front guards. I'll take you over to the other side where I've got one nearly finished. So that's what I'm up to with that one at this point, folks. It's almost finished. I still have a little bit of final trimming to do on it, but that's kind of how they're gonna sort of work out. It turned out pretty reasonable. I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see. It needs a little bit of work on it still, but it's almost there. And I'm working on the other one over on a bit of a makeshift bench. So let's go and have a look at that one. So what I'm doing here, folks, is I've got a bit of sheet aluminium, some real thin stuff. It's probably, I don't know, 0.5, 0.8 or something. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to beat with this hammer this shape of the factory plastic piece. I'm trying to beat this shape into this piece of aluminium, which is what I did with the one on the other side. And you can see I am getting there. I'm just using a brake disc, one of the ones off the Z32, the ones that came with the car. I'm just using that as a bit of a recess to sit this in, that I've got somewhere that I can sort of beat into it to let it sort of, you know, let the aluminium go somewhere. And you can see it's marked out roughly, so I'm just in the process of doing a little bit more beating, and then I should be right to start cutting it out and making some sort of sense out of it. So I'll be back when I make a little bit more progress on it. Alrighty, I'm a bit further along now, folks. As you can probably see, we've got our basic shape and everything formed into this now. It's roughly formed to the correct shape, as you can see by sitting the factory piece over the top of it. The two kind of go together quite well, including this big dip that's in the original piece. Yeah, it's coming along. I've got the section folded up at the bottom here, which attaches it to the under tray, you know. So this has got 4 or 5 mil riv nuts in it along there, with a strengthening piece added, so there's something, you know, quite solid for the riv nuts to go into, because as I say, this stuff is quite thin, you know. But basically, folks, I'm ready to start chopping out the vent. As you can see there, vent's ready to sort of come out. But I do have to form this vent. This requires a bit of bending and manipulating just to get it to sort of form the shape with this, so that the vent's not trying to keep it straight and trying to pull out some of that nice shaping that we've managed to get into that piece there. So I'll get this vent cut out and get it riveted in, and we might then go and fit it up on the car and have a bit of a look and see what it looks like. Alright, I'll keep at it, folks. As I say, I'll cut that out, rivet this in, and I'll be back once again. That's looking somewhere near it now, folks. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. She looks like from the back. Very good. Still obviously needs a little bit of fine tuning. It needs some of these lumps and bumps beaten flat out of it, which I'll do sort of a bit later on. Some of the edges have been cleaned up, a lot of them haven't. I will do that obviously, and when it comes time to the final fit up, it's obviously going to need a little bit of fettling, and I'll put some sort of, you know, rubber piping around the edges and things like that, and some foam seals just to make sure that it all goes together really nice. But for now, that's at a point where I can test fit it, just make sure it's alright before attempting to go any further and doing any more cleanup work on it. So let's get it up to the Fairlady, hey, and see what it looks like. So far so good, folks. It's looking pretty reasonable at this stage. I'll just throw a couple of bolts in it just to kind of get the final position. Well, not really the final position, but the final-ish position. Just so I know I'm, you know, somewhere on the money. I'd have to say I'm pretty happy with that, folks. At this stage, we'll go a little bit closer. Yeah, I think that'll do just fine. Like I say, at this stage, obviously a little bit more trimming around the top and stuff like that. And like I say, it's got to have some, you know, a bit of soft stuff, a bit of sealing tape and some bits and pieces. And plus, it's got to have bolts in it everywhere through the front here and everything to sort of more form it into position and hold it in its shape a lot better. But there's enough shape in it that it won't be a problem. It'll quite easily pull into where it needs to be with all the bolts. It's pretty much there now, but you know, it's always something to sort of consider. The reason the factory inner guard section here is dented in right here is because when you have your steering wheel on full lock at ride height, the corner of the wheel tends to push into this area up here, which is why that's kind of the low spot in there. And by keeping that there, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself that that's not going to be a problem. I've also moved the thing in on that side a little bit just to sort of help with that, which is why there's a greater distance from these plastic plugs to the bend compared to the factory piece. But yeah, at this stage, folks, that is not too bad at all. That's looking a bit better, folks. Slowly getting there. You can see there's a few bolts in around the perimeter and everything now, which is making it sit more closely into the proper position where it's all meant to go. It's been a bit of a struggle, folks. This car came with none of that inner bracing there and none of these splash guards for the back of the intercoolers. They're all missing off the vehicle. So in order to get this line out here, as I mentioned earlier, I tracked down a set of original plastic ones for here, which were in pretty poor condition, but at least I was able to use them as a template to tell me where this edge should line up, how this all kind of works. I've tracked down a few second-hand braces here and there, and I've ordered a whole heap of new bits and pieces from Nissan, again for all the inner guard bracing. Now, I've got some of the second-hand stuff here, which I've been hammering around to get straight and just make sure that they're going to end up in the right position. And I'm still waiting on a few bits from Nissan for the other side, but I have got that side a lot closer as well. So I'll show you why, and you can sort of see part of it here straight away, why I took the front lip off the car, even though I like the front lip and I'm hoping to be able to put it on, but why it was actually removed. As you can see it here, you can see how much it's sitting out off that corner of the bar there. Alright, let's drop the car and have a look out the front and see what this looks like overall. And that's it there, folks. You can see that we have this massive gap now between this front spoiler and where the actual front bar is meant to be. And there's a lot of fiberglass on this corner back here, and it's very strong. Like, there's no way you'd be able to push that strong piece of fiberglass back into this soft plastic bar and not end up with the bar conforming to the fiberglass, not the other way around, which is what you want. So you can see that's a lot, and if this bar came out to here, which is what it was doing when I got the car, it just looked absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know if I can set this up. I'll try and show you how the body line sort of follows with the front bar. Yeah, I'll just drop this down a bit. So when you get this right, you'll notice that the front bar follows the line of the back of the guard there on the wheel well on the other side. This piece here, you can see if you line that up with the back of the guard over there, that this bit follows that shape to a T when you look across there. Whereas if this was sticking out here, it just looks absolutely ridiculous. And it's the same situation on this side, folks. Not quite as bad, but it's still the same sort of things. So you can see the moulding for this bar is pretty crap in my opinion. I can't imagine that something has made it move that much. I'd say it came out of the mould that way. No idea who made it. You know, like I say, it was attached to this front bar when I got it, which again wasn't on the car because the front bar was busted that was on the car. So absolutely no idea where it came from and all that sort of stuff. But I'm sort of stuck with it now, and I've actually grown to really like it. I think it really suits the early TT front bar really, really well. It's obviously a Stilton copy, as you can see, that's been, you know, sort of rejigged to go onto a TT bar. But as you can see, it just doesn't quite fit. So what I'm going to attempt to do is rework it. I'm going to cut the bar here through both sides. It needs to be cut there through these, and it needs to be pulled back around into shape. So what I'm going to attempt to do is to cut it and get it where it needs to be, and then refiberglass it. Whether or not I can get it to a point where I'm happy with it again after I've cut it and repaired it will determine whether or not I end up getting a whole new bar for it. But you know, I've got all the stuff here to do it. I don't mind doing a bit of fiberglass stuff, so I'll have a crack at it. If it turns out any good, I'll use it. If it doesn't, it's just going to go in the bin, you know. So that's about that for today's update, folks. I hope you liked all of the stuff that we've gone over here. It's been quite varied, lots of little bits and pieces, but you can see how much of a struggle it is getting an older vehicle like this all back sort of into line, and to be able to get everything to kind of work harmoniously together like it would have when it was a factory vehicle, considering it's now using a lot of aftermarket parts, and plus, you know, the ravages of time and all that kind of stuff. And mark my words, folks, it does take a huge amount of time, which is why, you know, it really doesn't work to just drop your car at a workshop and just go, oh, here, you know, I want you to put this aftermarket bar on for me and paint it, or I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Because things very rarely work that way. There's usually a lot of fettling that needs to go on. So if you're going to have to pay someone an hourly rate to fart around with all this sort of stuff, there's going to be one or two outcomes. Either they're not going to do it and you're going to end up with a shit job, or they're going to take the time and do it properly and it's going to cost you a goddamn fortune. Take all the time yourself at home and muck around with stuff and make sure it fits up 100%, and make sure it's really, really 100% right. Not half right, not a quarter right, not 3/4 right, 100% right before you take it into someone to get any kind of finishing work done on anything like that, or you're just in for a whole world of pain. Anyway, folks, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Always a bloody pleasure to have you here. I hope you're enjoying how Project Fairlady's going and the progress that I'm making on it. It is slow and steady, but it is happening. I do not ever stop working on this vehicle, so it will get finished. But yeah, it's just a matter of how much time I can devote to it, and how much money I'm prepared to throw into the thing on how quickly it gets finished. Anyway, enough of me crapping on. As always, folks, I'll bloody well see you on the next one. Cheers.